Right, time for part two of our major expenditures mini unit. Today we're going to focus on transportation. Remember that food, transportation, and housing what's the word? Comprise, we'll use that one, about 60% of the average person's spending, and transportation specifically accounts for about 17% of a typical person's expenses. That is further broken down in this pyramid right here. Purchasing your vehicle, paying for your loan might be 5.4% of your overall spending, fuel another 5.3%, other 4.9%. We'll talk about that later. And then public transportation could be 1% for most people. Of course, this varies. First, we're going to talk about public transportation, though. What are some pros and cons of using public transportation? Obviously, in Salem, we do not necessarily have options for public transportation, but in cities, they do have things like taxis, subways, buses that are usually cost effective. So that's one of the pros, is that usually it's pretty cheap to ride a bus or ride the subway. And it doesn't require any of those extra costs that go along with owning a vehicle. Some cons are that you may not be able to have availability where you are. So obviously that's our problem. But even in the city, maybe the location that you would have to get on the bus to go wherever you need to go is too far to walk to. And so it may not be convenient, or it might require more travel time because you're having to walk to the location, get on the bus, wait for it to go through all of its stops before you can get to your destination, or even switch buses along the route. If you are going to be purchasing an automobile, some ways that you can do some research is through the dealership. You can look for both new and used vehicles, and a dealership is going to be convenient because of the hours are typically later than after you get off work, including on the weekends. There are also private sources to purchase your vehicle. So I'm just going through somebody who's posted it on whatever, eBay, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Raleigh Grapevine, whatever. Those are most of the time going to be pre-owned vehicles. So you do want to make sure that you know how much, there we go, how much you should expect to spend for the type of vehicle that you are wanting. So you want to work with some sales personnel there at the auto dealership, get some information about the different kinds of vehicles. Also, do your own research, though, on Consumer Reports or wherever to find out maybe crash test ratings and safety ratings and other features that you might be interested in and things like that. You want to evaluate your needs and wants. Make sure that you're finding the right vehicle that works for you and your family and how you're going to use that vehicle. And of course, research the expected costs. You don't want to go in blindly and just pay whatever the dealership tells you to pay. You want to make sure that you are getting a good deal. You're responsible for yourself in this case. You want to make sure that you're making a good decision for you and that you're not being taken advantage of. Whenever you're factoring in transportation costs to your budget, you want to include all the things that have to do with your automobile purchase. So the payment is one part of that, but also fuel costs, maintenance and repairs. Those things usually come up unexpectedly, other than like an oil change, and you want to make sure that you're able to come up with that money when you need to. There are also license and registration fees that typically happen once a year, and insurance that you're going to have to purchase. And then some locations are going to require that you have a parking permit of some sort, even at your apartment building or at your workplace or things like that. I've got an example. Good. So Marina purchased a 2013 Honda Accord. Her purchase price, $21,000. She was able to put $2,000 down, so you can tell this is about 10% of the purchase cost that she put down. Her interest rate was really great, 2.84%. So that left her with a monthly payment of $347 a month that she's going to pay on this loan. So the total amount that she's going to pay over the course of the loan, including interest, is $22,980. You can see that's just a little bit more than the purchase price. Average out-of-pocket expenses, however, over about 5 years. So we're going to estimate that she's driving 15,000 miles on her vehicle per year, just going to and from work and whatever. Fuel costs, 9,000. Insurance, 3,000. State licensing fees, 1,000. Ours are not nearly that expensive. Maintenance, another 1,000. Repairs, another 1,000. And so her 5-year total, she's spending $19,000 in addition to the purchase price over the 5 years, which is probably the typical loan term. And so monthly amount that averages out to $323 a month in addition to her $347 a month of a monthly payment that she's having to pay. But this is why it's very important to think of all those other factors, all of those other expenses when you're deciding what vehicle to purchase and how much you can afford. Depreciation is what happens when the price or the value of your vehicle lowers over time. It depreciates. That's what that word means. So you want to think about how fast will it depreciate? How fast will the value of my vehicle go down? If I want to keep this vehicle for 5 years, what will I be able to sell it for? That's kind of what you're thinking about. This is one of the biggest costs of car ownership. So you want to make sure that you're not borrowing more than what the car is really worth, so that after that 5 years and you've paid off your loan, you're not still having to pay more for your vehicle. Or if you sold the vehicle 2 years after you bought it, so before you even paid off your loan, you wouldn't want the amount that you still owe on the loan to be higher than the amount that the car is worth. That's called being upside down on a loan, and it's not a good place to be. Features that you might consider when purchasing an automobile, you can write down any of these things on page 2. The cost, obviously very important. The size, do you have more than 2 people that need to ride in it regularly? Then you might need a larger vehicle. More passenger size. Usage, are you going to be using it to haul things, to carry people, are you using it for your work? Are you needing customers to ride in it? So whatever you're using it for, that could factor into what type of vehicle you get. The gas mileage might be important to you. Safety ratings, environmental impact. Depreciation has to do with it as well, especially if you're deciding whether to get a new versus used vehicle. Upgraded features and reliability, any or all of those things may be factored in to deciding what vehicle to get. You do want to shop around for your loan. So most likely, you're not going to have the money to pay cash for a brand new vehicle, or even inexpensive used vehicle. So you want to shop around. The auto dealer is going to offer lending. They are going to offer you a loan. Also, depository institutions, meaning your banks and credit unions, they're all going to look at your credit history though, and they're going to determine if they will give you a loan and also what the terms are going to be, what they're going to offer you as far as an interest rate and monthly payment and the length of the loan. The loan rates, those interest rates can vary significantly between different lenders. So you want to shop around and be willing to negotiate. Why is it important to have a positive credit history when using credit to purchase an automobile? Because it is going to help you get a lower interest rate, lower monthly payment possibly, or a shorter loan. You're going to get better terms. Down payment may or may not be required depending on your lender, but if you do pay a down payment, it's going to significantly reduce the amount that you're having to get a loan for. So usually that's going to mean you're going to pay off the loan faster, or over the course of the loan, you're going to pay less in interest. So that's very positive. The more down payment you can come up with, the better. If you're selling your current vehicle as well, you want to research its worth. before you talk to anyone about buying the car, or if you're trying to trade it in, you might want to negotiate the trade-in value of your vehicle separate from the price of your new vehicle. The car dealers are there to make the most money, so you want to make sure that you're not getting the short end of the stick. Leasing is another option. This means that you're essentially renting a vehicle for a long period of time. Typical is about 3 years. You don't ever own that vehicle. You're going to make monthly payments, but then after the end of the 3 years, you're going to either give it back and own none of it, or you're going to get a new lease and get another car. You will pay a specific amount of money every month. So one reason people tend to want to lease is because the monthly payment is less than what you would pay for a car if you got a loan, and or you can get a newer, nicer vehicle for the same amount of money as getting a loan for something else. So that can make it very, I don't know, attractive to people who want a status symbol and not necessarily net worth. Um, you do want to make sure that you're reading the contract, that what are they going to charge me for, and are there hidden costs involved, or things like that. So you want to look at the contract and make sure that you understand the terms completely.